Hey guys, this is Alex for Well-Tuned Musician. So today we're going to be looking at my mobility routine, the routine that I use personally before practice. I would like you guys to use something at least similar to what I'm going to be showing today to prepare your body for music making. And also you're going to be able to use some of that, or at least bits of that routine after practice to undo any tensions that you may have built during your practice. So let's remind ourselves, what is mobility? So mobility is a function of your strength that you can display in any given range of motion for any given joint. So you could say it's strength times range of motion. That would give you a mobility index of sort. Now, what can hinder mobility are restrictions. So restrictions is like your joint being held captive in a straitjacket. It's trying to move in that straitjacket, but what we really want to do is remove that straitjacket, or at least loosen it up so that the motion becomes more free, right? That's what a restriction is. In this mobility routine, we're going to be trying to evaluate which body part is our AGR, that is our area of greatest restriction. That is an osteopathic concept. We're going to be going through every part and grading every part and kind of pitting them one against the other, trying to determine which part is the most restricted. So here's the routine. That's enough talking for now. Here's the routine. So head to toe, we're going to be starting with the face. We're going to do an exercise called the small lion and dry raisin. This was given to me by Jean-François Harvey, who is an osteopath and kinesiologist. So small lion, or tiny lion, sorry, it's going to look like this. We're going to be stretching our mouth sideways, opening up our eyes very wide, and popping up our eyebrows like this. Now we're going to do the opposite of that, which is the dried raisin. So eyebrows, eyes, and mouth, right? These are the three components we're looking at. Next, we're going to move to the jaw. Okay, but first I should be grading this. So I'm finding a little bit of restriction around my eye, so I'm going to give that a 2 out of 10. 10 being the highest restriction that could be, right? So I've got a 2 and I keep that in mind. Moving to the jaw. Jaw, we do that straight smile again and we open up the jaw. This way. Right. Now, this is pretty fine to me. Maybe there's a bit of restriction to the right, but it's not higher than the 2 of my right eye. So I just move along. Now with the neck, we're going to do half circles of the neck. Right. We could do full circles, but there would be some cautions to be applied here if we were to do full circles. So you can just keep it at half circles, and that's just fine for the sake of our routine, right? So here, maybe I've got some restriction in the right side of my neck. It would perhaps be a 2.5, so I think that should be my new AGR. So it's my AGR thus far in the routine. It replaces the restriction I found in my right eye. It is my new AGR. Moving on to the shoulders. So for shoulders, if you don't have much space around you, you can use roundings of the shoulders this way and forward, okay? That's the version you can use in the orchestra where you don't have much space around you. Ideally, you would do a pandiculation. So pandiculation is this. It's a very fancy name, but we're using it because it's a scientific term, because we've seen other mammals use it in nature. Many mammals use it in nature. Now we're going to complete it by bringing the arms to the side, far back, so as to open up our shoulders and chest. And now we're going to be reaching back and coming to tie our imaginary bra here, very imaginary in my case. And now we're going to go all the other way back, up, and we're going to try to move our hands down as if we were tying our hair very low. My very imaginary hair again. Yeah, I did have hair at some point, I promise. Yeah, I'm going to have to check with the video editing guys about this one. Yeah. All right, so that was for the shoulders. Moving on to the elbows. We're going to be extending the elbows in this fashion. Note that I'm using my wrist in order to provoke a stretch now at the back of my elbow and now at the front of it. So I'm using this motion, so extending the wrist so as to stretch here and I'll stretch back, and we go back and forth this way, right? So again, evaluating restrictions. So far, right shoulder maybe a 2, not higher than neck, and the knee has maybe a little something 2, maybe a 2 also. So I'm just moving on for now. So what about the wrists now? Let's do the windmills of the wrists. How does that feel? Wrists are very important for musicians, obviously. How does that feel in both wrists? Right wrist, a bit more restricted. Again, maybe a 2.5, not more than the neck, so we'll just keep the neck the winner thus far. Now, with the hands and fingers, so we're going to be doing what I call the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise. So we're just flexing 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in sequence like this. And then notice that the thumb is going to be drawing this circle back up as we re-extend our fingers in this fashion. Now, if we want to save some time, we can start combining the 3 previous exercises together. So we're going to be doing this and with the windmills of the wrists. Now, I forgot one other exercise for the upper arm, which is forearm rotation. And we need rotations as musicians. We're using them all the time at the piano, at the violin, whatever it is. We're always using them. So we want to make sure that we use them properly and we mobilize them properly, right? Like this. Notice that I'm sticking my elbows to my trunk so that I'm isolating the rotation and I'm not using shoulder rotation, which we've already covered with this part of the routine, right? All right. So once you've gotten all of these 3, you can combine them. So you can do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and combine the rotations of the forearm and the fingers too, like this. Right. Now moving on to the trunk. We're going to cover the front part of the trunk first. So I'm going to place a hand here and a hand over here. And I'm going to be performing a belly breathing. So this hand is going to move forward first for belly breathing. Like this. And now chest breathing. This hand moves forward. How does that feel? Does that feel restricted? Does that feel comfortable? Do I control it fine? You grade it and you move on. Now, if you are a singer or a wind instrumentalist, you want to spend a bit more time over here. You want to detail this a little bit more. Belly breathing part, you're going to use one hand here and one hand at the back. So you're going to be doing this. And feeling breathing going, expanding the abdomen forward and back because there should be some expansion both ways. Now we're going to be moving our hands in this fashion. Checking for forward and back expansion of the ribs. Sideways expansions of the ribs is important too. So taking this deep chest breath right here. And then again with the chest breath, now we're going to check for upper ribs expansion. So again, evaluating for restrictions. In my case, this is not beating the right side of my neck for today. Now for the spine, so back part of the trunk now, we're going to be trying to brace a little bit over here and we're going to be moving our spine in this fashion. So doing half circles, just like we were doing half circles of the neck, now we're doing half circles with the entire spine, like this. Right. So in my case, maybe I'd say I've got maybe let's say a 3 over here in my right sacroiliac joint, so in this part of my back. Okay, I'll make that my new AGR. So this is higher than my neck. So this is my most recent it's my highest restriction. So it is my new AGR. Okay, moving along. I'm keeping this in mind, but I'm moving along. Hip joint now. We're going to be doing this motion like this to the side. So I'm going internally, externally, to the back and back in. So it looks like a ballet figure, which is very nice. And going all the way to the back. If you don't have space around you or you have some balance issues for now, you can either hold a table or you can do just this, right? You don't have to go all the way back. This is already some decent mobility for your hips. And if you have to be sitting, say you're at the orchestra once again, well, at the very least, you can do this, right? This is definitely better than nothing. So you can use that. Okay, for the knees now. So I'm going to be extending my knee. I'm using the same logic I did with my elbows. So using my ankle to provoke a stretch at the back of my knee here, and now bringing it towards me. I'm flexing my ankles so as to stretch the front part of my knee. And now I'm evaluating, again, restrictions in my soft tissue. Right here and here. This is looking pretty okay for me so far, maybe a 1 each side. That's about where I stand right now. So, ankles, same as we did for the wrists, we're just doing windmills for the ankles, like this, and now the toes. So I'm just going to be extending the toes like this and closing in like this, extending the toes, closing in like this. And that's it, that's the routine. So not too many restrictions to be discussed in the case of my feet. It's pretty okay, maybe a bit in my right foot, I'd say. There's a little something there I could work on. But so far the winner is my right sacroiliac joint. So that was something like a 3 or maybe even a 3.5. So I would be spending more time treating this, and maybe I would even do some passive stretching, holding myself in a stretched position, and doing some more unwinding over here. I would freestyle this a little bit. Maybe I'd use some self massaging. Maybe I even use some reinforcing. Maybe lifting some object here while using my back so as to reinforce that part. I could be using all of these modalities. This is the kind of stuff that we'll be discussing in further videos. For now, I'll just add this before I leave you guys. If you want to make any of these harder, you want to accentuate the strength part in the mobility equation, then what you can do is add the resistance of your own muscles. So it's a bit like you're pushing through some gluey substance, some thick substance in space. What you're really doing is you're just adding the resistance of your own muscles. But when you do that, when you add the opposed muscle group to any motion, you're really giving yourself a great tool to get rid of these restrictions that you find. So that's just one other way that you can increase the difficulty on any exercise, and how you can really get rid of these restrictions. Yes, now I'm repeating myself. It's a sign that we're done for today. Okay, that was long enough for a video for today. Make sure you guys subscribe, hit that like button, leave some comments in the comment sections and suggestions for future videos. This was Alex for Well-Tuned Musician. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.